two very, very special moments. I guess the high roller in Berlin and then the shark cage. Can you take us back and quickly summarize what you were feeling on those occasions?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's funny. The fact that someone who won a $1 million free roll, I'm sure the listeners and you must be thinking, well, like, what an ungrateful prick this guy is. And I certainly hope I'm not giving that too much off. I mean, obviously, $1 million is kind of money that changes people's lives, and that maybe I should be praising the game for the end of time, but it's never really that simple. I wasn't a great period of my life when I won the shark cage, for a bunch of different reasons and a personal level, and it's never as simple as as advertised when it comes to just like winning that kind of money. It doesn't matter what capacity, whether it's a free roll or whether you're back or this and that. Like there's always something behind the scenes where it's like you're never making as much as you are. So I mean, it was a beautiful experience in the sense that like I overcame at the time some really bad personal news from back home pretty much 5 hours before I went on. So that was like, I guess, sort of a personal triumph for me, which was obviously super rewarding. But Berlin was really much more special to me, and the culmination of so much hard work and dedication, and putting all of what I'd learned and what I'd observed to work, and it was this beautiful kind of, I mean, I'm a huge sort of like movie, like narrative kind of geek, and the way that everything happened with Berlin, right before I'd left, I'd fallen in love with this beautiful girl from back home that I went to school with, and I went out there, and she kind of became my muse over the course of this tournament, where she was, being like, oh, I love you, you're doing great, this and that kind of inspired me, and I had these, ebbs and flows where I was just crushing on day one, running so good, finishing with an absurd amount of chips, coming into day two, and then like this villain showed up, Martin Cabrol, who's this super high stakes, kind of genius IQ guy that was on my left that was just beating up on me and kind of like making me feel like, I wasn't as good as I really was. There was this one hand he just destroyed me with where he 3-bet aces, and I just called him down and lost like 80% of my stack in a spot that I should just never be even calling the 3-bet, and I felt like a fraud. And then I ran it back up again, and then I was on the final table bubble, and I won a big flip, and then I started looking at the prize pool and like how much I could win, and my backer was like so close to being. I remember he was so close for his net worth kind of thing to be a certain amount of money that was really important to him, and I was just like, if I win this, like he gets there. Like there were so many different little things about it. And then on the final table, me and Martin Cabrol just battling, and he'd been kind of bullying me, and then I had this moment where I kind of just like fought back, and then he had this sort of alpha male thing where he would kind of talk trash to you and make you feel like you were. I mean, this was all part of his sort of like thing, you know what I mean? His game flow thing. And then I kind of like shot back at him with like a comment at the final table when I started getting some momentum, and then I knocked him out, and then I won the tournament. And I remember coming back to the room, and this tournament, I'd won $100,000 maybe one other time, and I went back to the room with this $560,000 score, what have you, whatever, 430 euro. And I remember getting up to the room, and it was weird because, I obviously, to some I have a reputation of being a bit of a party animal, and everyone thought it was like, okay, like, you're going to go crazy now, you're going to have a wild one. And we didn't. We just went and got some sort of, it was just such a whirlwind, and I was so exhausted by the end of it that we all just, I remember my backer put on a suit because there was this like big thing for him that like this happened, and we all had a couple of drinks and just talked about, life and love, and just, and as soon as I won, I called my girlfriend, and she'd never been outside of Canada before, and I was like, I'm flying you down here, we're going to go to Monaco and San Remo, and like, it was this amazing kind of beautiful story that happened to me in my life. And when I got back to the room, like at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, when everyone else would be assuming I was, out partying, going wild, it was just me and this like, gold trophy and this beautiful Shambhala bracelet. And I just remember sort of placing it down, sort of on the desk in front of the bed. And I just burst out crying. It was such a, and I remember just laying back on the bed, and I was just like bawling my eyes out because it's just this culmination of so much, I don't want to say hard work because it was always such a game and so fun to me. I don't want to send the wrong message to the kids at home. Work hard and do well. I mean, I showed up to this interview an hour late. Hard for anything. I've done what I'm passionate about and what I love. And I think that's where the hard work should come from a work of passion, It was just a beautiful moment for me personally. And obviously, you can tell I have a lot more to say about that than I do this free roll that I have a lot of sort of negative feelings about. Not anyway with the experience with Poker Stars. I mean, everyone involved is so great, and it was so cool being heads up against Mike Tyndall and everything like that. But you're going to be a victim of your circumstances in life, and I was a very sad person at that period of my life, and all of my happiness was derived from poker success. And I'd gotten, like I said, I'd gotten some bad news from back home, and I was wearing a mask. I was putting on a show, and it's an interesting insight when you sort of, if you want to rewatch it, and I'm getting the high fives from the rail, and I seem happy as pig in shit, but I was miserable even when I won it. So it's really interesting and amazing how people's perspectives, the way they can be in things like that.